Hi, I'm Chef Keith Snow. Today I'm going to show you how to make a tomato tart with bacon, cabrales blue cheese, rosemary, garlic, and top it all off with a basil vinaigrette. It's really an unbelievable recipe. But before we do that, I've got to show you how to make the tart dough. And this is your classic French pâté brisé, and there's a recipe and a video on the website if you do a little search. So this dough was made in advance. It's got quite a bit of butter in it. And what I did was just kind of mush it down into a disc like this, and I had it in the refrigerator. I took it out a few minutes ago, and it's ready to be worked with. Now before I put it on my surface here, which is nice and cold marble, I'll take a little all-purpose flour and just kind of use your little side angle throw, get it on the board like that, and then take this and plop it down. Now you're going to want to put some more of this bench flour right on top, because you don't want this to stick, because that's not much fun. Put plenty of flour. Also on your rolling pin, flour it up, and now just roll this dough, giving it like a quarter turn. You can see how tender it is. It's going to easily fit inside of our tart pan. Can't have enough of your bench flour here. You don't want this thing to start sticking. So now I'll kind of just go out from the outside. This tart that we're going to make is rustic, so I'm not worried that this thing is absolutely perfect. So now that it's big enough to fit in this tart shell, and I can gauge it just like that, what I'm going to do is fold it over, put a little more flour, because we've got a couple of sticky spots, just for a little extra insurance. And now it just needs a teeny bit more in this direction. And now it will fit. Now you're probably wondering, how am I going to get that into there without ripping it? It's very simple. You want to fold it in half and then fold it like that. We'll set it aside. We're going to take some of this Mazola Pure. It's just a no or non-stick spray. We'll take our tart pan, and what's interesting about this is the bottom comes out, and as you can see, it's fluted, so it'll give a nice decorative edge. So we'll just spray this stuff in there, and I'm sure this tart dough will come out, but this is just a little extra insurance. So now we'll take it and pick it up and put it over here like this, unroll it. And now what you don't want to do is stretch it. You want to kind of lift it and lay it down so it's not being pulled in the corners. You want to lift it like this, and use your hands to make sure it's not overly stretched. Here we'll just give it a little pull. And it doesn't matter that we have some extra dough. You can use it for another recipe, or even feed it to your dog if you want. So now when we get it like this, the simple way to cut it is to take your rolling pin, go right over the tart pan like that. It's very sharp, so it will cut it perfectly. We've got one little problem area here that we'll fix like that. Take our extra dough and put it here. So now that we're to this point, we need to blind bake this. And the reason we want to do that is because if we put our tomatoes and other ingredients now, it's not going to cook. The bottom will be soggy, and that's not what we want. So we'll bake this first, but we're going to use a technique in classical French cooking or baking called blind baking. Very simple. What we're going to do is take some tin foil, just kind of push the foil on there. Another thing that we could do is called docking. We'll just put a few little dock marks in this, and that will help let steam out so it doesn't puff up too much. Put our foil in, and these are just some dry beans. They're very inexpensive. You can buy blind baking weights. They're little metal weights, but they're, I don't use them very often. So a few beans is better for me. Okay, spread them out a little bit, and this is ready to go into an oven. It's 350 degrees, and depending upon how your oven works, maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes, check on it. You just want it to start to brown, and then we can proceed with the recipe. So I'm going to go off to the oven. While we're waiting for our tart dough to blind bake, let's pay attention to some of our other ingredients here. Now these are the tomatoes that I'm going to use, and these are what they call heirloom tomatoes. You've probably heard that term. I picked these up at my local Whole Foods market. An heirloom tomato is generally grown with a seed that's at least 50 years old. People preserve the seeds through the generations, so it's kind of an old ugly tomato, but it tastes incredible. So these are the tomatoes we're going to use, and the first step to using these, remember earlier I said I don't want the tart dough to become soggy. These have loads of water, so let me show you a little technique. What we're going to do is take first a serrated knife, and we're just going to remove the back, and you can see unbelievable color on this tomato, but you can see that it's pretty special. So now we're going to slice these rather thick, about 1/4 of an inch thick. And this last slice may have a little of the top part in there, but that's cool. No worries. Okay, so we're going to take these sliced ones and we're going to lay them over here. What I have here is a clean kitchen towel. That way I don't have to use a bunch of paper towels to throw out. So we'll take these and just lay them on here. And I'll show you what we'll do in a minute with the salt. So again, we'll slice the back off of this tomato. Try to get the slices as even as you possibly can. That way it cooks nice and even in the oven. And trust me, when you try this tomato tart, you're going to love it. It's really primo. Okay, this stuff goes in your compost pile. Take these, just lay them out. And what we want to do is salt them. In the old times, they used salt to dry foods like fish and things like that. Salt is going to remove the moisture from these tomatoes, and that's a good thing in this case because we want them to be real meaty. We don't want them to be soaking wet. So we'll take some kosher salt and literally kind of sprinkle it right on these beautiful heirloom tomatoes. And they really smell so fresh. I mean, they're very fragrant. So we'll kind of make sure they're all covered in salt on this side, and then we'll give them a flip. And I can feel it already. As soon as I put the salt on, the moisture starts to really run out of it. So now we'll take the other half of our towel, kind of come right on top of it, and you can press down fairly hard. And you want to let this sit for, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes to let some of the water come out. Now while that's happening, we'll just take these and kind of move them out of our way. And this is the bacon that we're using here. This is also something I got at Whole Foods Market. And it's a thick cut applewood smoked bacon. And for those of you that don't know what that means, it's simply bacon that was smoked using wood from apple trees. And the applewood, the fruit woods like that peach wood, applewood, they give a really unique flavor to a smoked item. And this is a very high quality bacon. So we're going to cut this bacon up into what the French would call lardons, and it simply means kind of large chunks. So we'll take the bacon, pop it in this little dish here, and now that's ready to go. So we'll set that aside and we'll focus on our rosemary. And this rosemary gives the tart an unbelievable, really earthy flavor. I grew this myself right in my garden. So you just strip them off. Now this kind of skewer thing, you could save it and skewer shrimp or something like that, but we're not going to bother today. So you just peel it like you're petting a cat backwards, if you could imagine. Pull backwards, it comes right off. And remember, rosemary, you don't really want to eat big pieces of it. So we're going to kind of take the knife to it and chop it down. And definitely do not substitute dried rosemary because it's really a waste of time for this dish. You have such beautiful fresh ingredients. You've got to use fresh rosemary here. So this is minced finely enough. What I'll do is throw it just right on top of the bacon. It's all going to go on the tart together. And now I'm going to go and check and see how the tart is blind baking. Okay, I just pulled the tart dough out of the oven. You can see that it's got a nice little bit of color to it. And you don't have to be concerned that it shrunk away from the sides a little bit. Again, this is a rustic tart. So now that it's like that, we can start assembling it, which is the fun part. So we'll reach over to our tomatoes that I've kind of pressed down. You can see they're a little more meaty now than before. So we'll lay these tomatoes in here, and you're not going to have 100% coverage, but that's cool. Rustic, man. Don't worry about it. Don't get all stressed out. Just make the tart. Put it in here like this. And I promise you, if you make this tart, your friends are going to kiss your feet. It's that good. Just like that, kind of push it down a little bit. I may take one here and squeeze it in the corner. Now that's ready. So, next step is to grab the rosemary that we chopped earlier. Sprinkle that over the top. And this super nice, look at that stuff. That's money right there, that applewood smoked bacon. A lot better than the just plain old store-bought stuff. So we'll use all of this. And if you're a vegetarian, you want to omit this, that's cool too. You won't hurt my feelings. Now we want to get a little seasoning right on the tomatoes before we cover them up with any cheese. So we're going to go with black pepper. And remember, we salted the tomatoes earlier, so you don't want to go like a maniac with the salt, but just a little pinch, and the cheese also has salt too. So a little pinch like that. And now we're going to put the first of two cheeses. This is Cabrales blue cheese. It comes from Spain. It's really, to me, it's the best blue cheese in the world. I love this cheese here. And it's made mostly with cow's milk, but it also has a little bit of sheep and a little bit of goat, although you can barely taste them. Super stuff. Now what I did is I had this in the freezer because it's not cheap and you don't want to kind of mush it up and it gets stuck all over your fingers. So you put it in the freezer and then you can kind of grate it right on top. That way you can sort of control where it falls. So you just grate it all over, and don't go nuts because it's stuff is very strong. You want to taste the tomatoes. So that's all we need. Kind of scrape off any that was left behind. We'll set that aside. And this is Parmigiano Reggiano, the real quality stuff from Italy. You can see the little bit remainder of that stamp there. Awesome cow's milk cheese. And this will take our rasp. We'll add just a little shaving of this. And I can guarantee you that the cameramen who were shooting this, they're having trouble not drooling all over themselves because they want to eat this just like I do. The last touch, and this is where you've heard me say recently not to use your extra virgin olive oil to like overpower a vinaigrette or something, but this is where you want to use a good quality extra virgin olive oil that's preferably cold pressed. And this is a Spanish olive oil, by the way. So we'll go ahead and put a nice liberal dousing of this oil on here. And I mean, you could eat it like that, but we have to pop it back in the oven just to get those tomatoes warmed through and the cheese melted, and then we're ready to eat it. So let's go put it in the oven. All right, it is done. Take a look at this beautiful tart. You can see that the crust is nice and golden brown. I've taken it out of the oven. I let it sit for about 15 minutes just to kind of rest a little bit so it's not steaming hot when I cut into it. Looks unreal. You are gonna love this tart. So let me show you how to take a nice slice of it. Take a good sharp knife like this, and you could use a pizza cutter too if you have one. First thing is just to carefully cut it in half. Then I'll give it a little bit of a twist. I'll take a nice slice. This thing rocks, man. Check it out. Take it and put it right on this beautiful white plate. We'll finish it up with just a small dusting of our Parmigiano Reggiano like that. And then some delicious basil vinaigrette. Recipes on the website. Put a little bit of that basil vinaigrette. Then if you don't mind, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna grab a fork right here. This is definitely one of my all-time favorites. Ooh, nice and crispy. Get a little of that vinaigrette. Solid. I hope you try this one today. Thanks a lot for joining me.
To see more tips, techniques, and videos, visit harvesteating.com. 4 seasons, 1 lifestyle.